Good day, everyone. My name is Danica Magallanes, taking up a Bachelor of Science in Criminology. And for today's discussion, we have the Institutional Agency of the Philippines, also the history of the Bureau of Corrections. So, what are the institutional correction of the Philippines? So, we have the Bilibid Prison, Santamon Prison and Penal Farm, the Iwahe Colony, the correctional institutions for women, the Davao Penal Colony, the Sablayan Penal Farm, the Leyte Regional Prison. Also, we have to discuss the Code of Calanquiao, the Provincial Jail System, and the Public Attorney Office, or the PAO. So, what comes in your mind when you hear the word institution? Is that an organization? Yes, you're correct. So, an institution is an organization, establishment, the foundation, society, or the like dedicated to the advancement of a certain cause or mission. So, particularly one of the public, educational, or the philanthropic nature. That is the institution. So, next we have the table of contents. They have the overview, the history of group correction, the Code of Calanquiao, the 7 institutional correction of the Philippines, the provincial jail system, and the public attorney office, the PAO. So, let us start with the codes. We have brain in your head, you have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose by Dr. Seuss. So, what is your own understanding about these codes? So, for me, this code is like no one else can alter your life for you. Only you can do it. Only you have the ability to make adjustment that will mold your life and get you closer to your ambition or want. Our mind is incredibly strong. We are led by our brains, which is that create choices or critical decisions, and our life is mostly a mirror of our brains through brains of thoughts and choices. You can reshape your life if you mold your ideas and cultivate the correct attitudes, as long as you utilize and eat a constructive and non-destructive way. Don't rely on someone else's intellect. It's up to you to decide which path you want to take. Don't allow someone else make the decision for you, and make your participate when they do. Remember, you know yourself better than anyone else, and you're the only one who can determine what best for you. Only you are aware of your own advantages and disadvantages. Don't allow someone else make important decision in your life. Instead, be as active as possible. So don't give up control of your life by handing over the steering wheel to someone else. Yes, having someone to help you navigate is wonderful, but don't just hand over the driving wheel, and don't allow anyone manage your life or crucial decisions. You have the potential to shape your life in whatever way you want. You already have everything you need to guide your life in the right path. Don't compare yourself to others, and you are unique just like anyone else, and you have strength and shortcomings just like everyone else. So discover your actual potential, discover out what makes you happy, and design your life accordingly. Discover your full potential. So at the end of your life, we have to take charge of it. Try not to put yourself in the shoes of others. Don't mindlessly follow anyone's lead. Instead, figure out what works for you and makes you happy, and then attempt to pursue that road if it makes sense of you. So next we have the institutional agency of the Philippines. So the Department of Justice. So these are there are a lot of institutional agencies of the Philippines, which are the Department of Justice, the Department of Finance, the Department of Education, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, etc. So in the Department of Justice, it is the executive branch of the Philippines government in charge of enforcing the rule of law in the country. We have the Department of Finance, which is the executive branch of the Philippines government in charge of fiscal policy creation, the implementation and administration. We have the Department of Education in the Philippines government executive branch in charge of providing access to promoting equity and enhancing the quality of basic education. It is a primary agency in charge of managing and governing the Philippine basic education system. And also we have the Department of Social Welfare and Development of the Philippines. So it is the executive branch of the Philippines government in charge of protecting Filipinos' social welfare rights and promoting social development. So for a brief introduction, correction in the Philippines began before the colonial times. It was, however, organized on a community-by-community basis. Only during the Spanish rule was an organized correction service established. Next, we have the history of Bureau of Correction. The Bureau of Prison was created under the Reorganizations Act of 1935 when Americans took over in the 90s. So Act No. 1407 dated November 1, 1935. Next, we have the old beloved jail of Oroquita Street in Manila was the major penitentiary which was built in 1847 in accordance with Section 708 of the Revised Administrative Code. It was formally opened in 1865 by royal decree. 4 years later, on August 21, 1869, the San Ramon Jail in the Penal Farm in Zamboanga City was created to house Muslim insurgent and obstinate political prisoner hostile in Spanish control. So the property, which is Hulusi, contains Spanish-inspired dorms, and it was initially built on the huge 1,414 hectares estate. Next, when the American took control in the 90s, the Bureau of Prison was established as an agency under the Department of Commerce and Police by Reorganization Act of 1905, Act No. 1407 dated November 1905. So it also prepared the way for the restoration of San Ramon Prison, which had been devastated during the Spanish-American War in 1907. So on January 1, 1915, the San Ramon Prison was transferred to the Bureau of Prisons and began accepting detainees from Mindanao. So it was carried through rail trucks, a method that the American brought to prisons. Prisoners had to deal with decrepit facilities and confined space. So next, before the reconstruction of San Ramon Prison, the American established in 1904 the Luhit Penal Settlement. Now is the Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm on a vast reservation of 28,072 hectares. Prior to the restoration of San Ramon Prison, the American created the Luhit Prison Colony, which I have stated earlier, the Iwahig Prison and the Penal Farm. So on a massive 28,072 40,072 hectares in 1904. So in the late 1950s, it would have a total land size of 40,000 hectares. It was built at the western portion of the archipelago, far from the major town, the house, and for whom the government saw a little possibility of rehabilitation. So Governor Newton Gilbert issued Executive Order No. 67 on October 15, 1912, which increased the area to 41,007 hectares. So 40,000 hectares increased of 41,007 hectares. So during the American government, further prison colonies were built. So the Correctional Institution for Women, CIW, was established on November 27, 1929 by Act No. 3579. So while the Davao Penal Colony in southern Mindanao was established in 1932 under the Act number 3732. So the CIW was founded to provide separate facilities for women offenders and to cater in their gender difference. To date, it is the lone woman prison in the country, owing the increasing number of commitments to the old Bilibid prison in Manila. The new Bilibid prison was established in 1935 in the southern suburb of Muntinlupa, Rizal. So, in the ancient jail was converted into a receiving and storage facility for farm commodities from the colonies. So, it is currently abandoned and administered by the Public Estate Authority. Prisoners must construct their basic dwelling quarters using resources found on the prison reservation. So the two further correctional institutes were built following American dictatorship. This were the Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm in Occidental Mindoro, established by the Proclamation No. 72 on September 26, 1954, and later regional prison established by Proclamation No. 1101 on January 16, 1973. So the Bureau of Prison was renamed the Bureau of Correction in accordance with the new Administrative Code of 1987, which was issued on November 23, 1987, and President Proclamation No. 495. It is one of the attached agency overseen and controlled by the Department of Justice. So next we have the Code of Kalankiao. Article 1. You shall not kill, neither shall you steal, neither shall you do harm to the aged, lest you incur the danger of death. All those who infringe this order shall be condemned to death by being drowned in the river or in boiling water. Article 2. You shall obey. Let all your debts with the headman be met punctually. He who does not obey shall receive for the first time 100 lashes. If the debt is large, he shall be condemned to thrust his hand in boiling water thrice. For the second time, he shall be beaten to death. Article 3. Obey. Let no one have women that are very young, nor more than he can support, nor be given to excessive lust. He who does not comply with, obey, and observe this order shall be condemned to swim for 3 hours for the first time and for the second time to be beaten to death with sharp thorns. Article 4. Observe and obey. Let no one disturb the quiet of the graves. When passing by the caves and trees where they are, give respect to them. He who does not observe this shall be killed by ants or beaten to death with thorns. Article 5. You shall obey. He who exchanges for food, let it be always done in accordance with his word. He who does not comply shall be beaten for 1 hour. He who repeats the offense shall be exposed for 1 day among ants. Article 6. You shall be obliged to revere sites that are held in respect, such as those of trees of recognized worth and other sight. He who fails to comply shall pay with 1 month work in gold or in honey. Article 7. This shall be put to death he who kills trees of venerable appearance, who shoots arrow at night at old men and women, he who enters the houses of headmen without permission, he who kills a shark or a strike cayman. Article 8. Slavery for a doom, a certain period of time, shall be suffered by those who steal away from women of the headman, by him who keep ill-tempered dogs that bite the headman, by him who burns the fields of another. Article 9. All this shall be beaten for 2 days, who sing while traveling by night, kill the manual, tear the documents belonging to the headman, are malicious liars, or who mock the dead. Article 10. It is decreed an obligation that every mother teach secretly to her daughter matter pertaining to lust and prepare them for womanhood. Let not men be cruel nor punish their women when they catch them in the act of adultery. Whoever shall disobey shall be killed by being cut to pieces and thrown to the caymans. Article 11. They shall be born who by their strength of running have mocked at and escaped punishment, or who have killed being boys, or tried to steal away the women of the elders. Article 12. They shall be drowned all who interfere with their superior of their owner or master, all those have abused themselves through their lusts, those who destroy their anitus or idols by breaking them or throwing them down. Article 13. All this shall be exposed to ants for a half day, who kill black cats during a new moon, or steal anything from the sheep or gorangs, however small the object may be. Article 14. This shall be made slave for life, who have beautiful daughters and deny them to the sons of sheep, and with bad faith lead them away. Article 15. Concerning belief and superstitious, they shall be beaten who eat the deceased flesh of beasts which they hold in respect, or the herb which they consider good, who would or kill the young of the manu, or the white monkey. Article 16. The figure shall be cut off of those who break idols of wood and clay in their alangans and temples, of those who destroy the dangers of the tagalons, or break the drinking jars of the latter. Article 17. They shall be killed who profane sight where idols are kept, and side where they're buried the sacred things of their dewatas and headmen. He who will perform his necessities in those places shall be born. Article 18, the last one. Those who do not cause this rule to be obeyed, if they are headmen, they shall be put to death by being stoned and crushed, and if they are gorangs, they shall be placed in rivers to be eaten by sharks and caiman. So, what are the punishment under the code of Kalankyo? So, depending on the nature of the violation, punishment might range from a small fee to being shot and thrown to crocodiles. Historians began to challenge the code legitimacy as early as the 1960s, although many Filipinos continued to see it as essential legal instrument. Another question: why do we need to study our history using Philippine historiography? So the importance of studying Philippine history, we have learned and witnessed the birth of growth of our country via Philippine history. We've learned to fight, defend ourselves, and defend our homeland from the conquerors. So next we have the 7 institutional correction of the Philippines. So the New Bilibid prison. There are 7: the New Bilibid prison, the San Ramon prison, the penal farm. San Ramon prison and penal farm, Correctional Institution for Women, CIW, W.E. Wahid Penal Colony, the Davao Penal Colony, Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm, Leyte Regional Prison. So first, the New Bilibid Prison. The New Bilibid Prison, NBP, in Muntinlupa, Metro Manila, and the primary insular jail constructed to the whole Philippines prison population. It is managed by the Department of Justice Bureau of Correction, the BUCOR. The NBP held 26,877 convicted offenders as of May 2018. So, prisoners were transported to the NBP from the old Bilibid prison in Manila in 1940, also known as Cárcel y Presidio Correccional, Spanish for correctional jail and military prison. The vestige of the former institution were repurposed as a detention center of the city of Manila, which is currently known as Manila City Jail. Next, so the initial land area of institute was 551 hectares, but 104 hectares were converted to a Department of Justice housing project. The Bureau of Correction headquarters are located in additional MBP reservation land. During the Japanese conquest of the Philippines, during World War II, Bilibid served as a prisoner of war and civilian internment camp for American soldiers and civilians. So, during the Battle of Manila on February 4, 1945, if I am correct, the American forces liberated 1,200 internees and POWs. So, next, the Philippines government intended to establish a regional penitentiary in Nueva Ecija through a public-private collaboration. The old Bilibid prison, formerly known as the Cárcel y Presidio Correccional, or for the Spanish for the correctional jail and military prison, was located in the heart of Manila on a rectangular plot of ground. This was part of the Mahalik estate. So next, the old penitentiary. The ancient jail was built by a royal edict of Spanish colonial authority on June 25, 1865. It is separated into 2 sections: the carcel, which can house 600 inmates, and the presidio, which can hold 527. So Next is the prison and penal farm Sanramon Prison. So, according to the historical reports, the Sanramon Prison was created on August 21, 1870 in southern Sambuanga by a royal edict issued in 1869. The institution was initially built for those convicted of political offenses during the time of Governor General Ramon Blanco, whose patron saint the jail is named after. So, prisoner in San Ramon, the country's oldest penitentiary institution, were obliged to conduct agricultural labor. During the Spanish-American War in 1898, the captives of San Ramon were rushed out and the structures were demolished. So, the American administration re-established the prison farm in 1907. So, in 1912, General John Pershing, the chief executive of the Department of Mindanao and Sulu, designated the facilities as a jail and penal colony, and its house prisoner punished by court under his authority. So, several facilities with a capacity of 600 convicts were built under Pershing's supervision. After a few years, the colony was nearly self-sufficient thanks to 75,000 coconut trees planted at the start of Pershing administration, which contributed to colony self-sufficiency apart from coconut, rice, maize, papaya, and other crops were grown. So, in Reorganization Act No. 1407 was passed on November 1, 1905, establishing the Bureau of Prison under the Department of Commerce and Police and incorporating the old Bilibid Prison, San Ramon Penal Colony, and Iwahig Penal. So, San Ramon headed up administration of the coconut farm to the Philippines Coconut Authority. In 1995, the Congressman Maria Clara Lobregat advocated relocating San Ramon Prison to Baguio Town in Zamboanga Hilly region to make space for special economic zone. So, next with Iwahig Penal Colony. So, during the American occupation, the institutional was built. So, however, it was during the Spanish administration that Puerto Princesa was designated as location where convicts sentenced to exile were punished. A specific region of Puerto Princesa was chosen for the location of correctional institution. The U.S. military established a jail facility in Puerto Princesa Rainforest. The institutional initial superintendent was Lieutenant George Wolfe, a member of United States Expeditionary Force, who eventually became the institution first prison director. So, Lieutenant George Wolfe, the institution first prison director. So, next we have the Governor Luke Wright. On November 16, 1904, he authorized the construction of prison colony in the province of Palawan. So originally, this 22-acre penal colony functioned as storehouse for convicts who could not be accommodated at Manila Bilibid Prison. So the Department of Commerce and Police later renamed the Department of Public Instruction proceeded in 1906 to convert the institution into a center of prison colony controlled in accordance with current trends. So through the effort of the department, the Philippine Commission of the United States Government approved Act 1723 in 1907, categorizing the settlement as a correctional facility. So, the colony became a successful settlement under the leadership of Col John R. White of the Philippines Constabulary, who would become superintendent of Iwahig in 1906. For the convicts, a reward system was developed and the vocational activities were made available like farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, the hospital medical labor were among them. So, prisoner might select their own occupational activities. So, which are the farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry. Remember, we have the Governor Luke on November 16, 1907. He authorized the construction of a prison colony in the province of Palawan. So, the Department of Commerce and Police, later renamed the Department of Public Instruction, proceeded in 1906. So, the converted the institution into the center of the prison colony controlled in according to the current plan. So, also remember during the American occupation, the Iwahig Penal Colony, this institution was built. However, it was during the Spanish administration that Puerto Princesa was designated as a location where convicts sentenced to exile were banished. So, in a specific region of Puerto Princesa was chosen for the location of correctional institution. So, in administrative, so the colony, through the effort of Department of the Philippines Commission of the United States Government, approved Act No. 1723 in 1907, categorizing the settlement as I have mentioned earlier. The colony became a successful settlement under the leadership of Col John R. White. So, for the convicts, a reward system was developed and vocational activities were made available like the farming, fishing, forestry, carpentry, and others. So, prisoner might select their own occupational activities. So, in administrative Order No. 20 was issued by President in 1955 and was carried out by the Secretaries of Justice and Agriculture and Natural Resources. Next, we have the Iwahig Penal Colony. So, this directive authorized the allotment of colony lands for cultivation by worthy colonies. The deck also include a list of prerequisites for the colonists who wanted apply for a lot of cultivate. The term for the settled stay in is property, financing requirements, and marketing the seller's produce. The lots given were not more than 6 hectares. So, President Carlos P. Garcia established the committee on August 16, 1959 to investigate the situation of national jails. So, as a result, at the Iwahig, convicts were divided into 2 groups, the settlers and the colonies. So, Iwahig is organized into 4 zones of district. The central sub-colony, which the hectare 14,700. The Santa Lucia has 9,685 hectares. The Montebal was 8,000 and Inagawan was 13,000 hectares. So, recent event and presidential proclamation have significantly decreased the extent of the Iwahig prison reserve. So in a wide penal colony, President Carlo P. Garcia established the Committee of August 1959 to investigate the situation of National Jail. So as a result, the convicts were divided into two groups, the settlers and the colonies. So next, we have the Correctional Institution for Women, the CIW. In a report dated January 22, 1959, delivered to the President of the Philippines, Administrative Order No. 287 Created Committee, it was stated that prior to the construction of a separate building, especially for a woman prisoner, all female convicts were imprisoned inside the old Bilibid prison on Ascaraga, St. Manila. So, male inmates were housed dorms close to the women quarters. Because of this restriction, the women convicts' vocational activity were confined to stitching. When the women fell unwell, they were housed in a separate structure that acted as a hospital, so complete with nurses and prison physicians. When the ladies needed surgery, they were operated on in a Bilibid prison. So take note, Correctional Institution for Women is in a report dated January 22, 1959, delivered to the President of the Philippines, Administrative Order No. 287 Created Committee. So they were taken infirmary for the convalescence. Following the procedure, prison authorities were aware of the hardship that the woman inmate had to face. As a result, the location of the ladies to a separate location became unavoidable. So the Philippine legislature approved Republic Act No. 3579 in November 1929. Following a series of discussion initiated by Prison Director Ramon Victorio, it's allowed the transfer of all female detainees to Welfare Villa and Mandaluyong, Rizal, and budgeted of 60,000 for relocation. So, Prison Director Ramon Victorio initiated and in Republic Act No. 3579 in November 1929, it allowed the transfer of all female detainees to Welfare Villa in Mandaluyong, Rizal, and it budgeted 60,000 for the relocation. So in February 14, 1931, women detainees were transported for the old Bilibid prison to a structure designated specifically for them. So the name was changed from Women Prison to Correctional Institution for Women to reflect rising tendencies in penology that stressed correction rather than punishment. Convicts were reintegrated into society, adjusted and rehabilitated with a better attitude of life. So, February 14, 1931, women detainees were transported from the old Bilibid prison to the structure designated specifically for them. So the name was changed from Women Prison to Correctional Institution for Women. So according to the Senate investigation, Correctional Institution for Women took up 18 hectares. So the initial facility was one-story structure that held the office, the brigades, the mess hall, the kitchen, the chapel, the infirmary, the laboratories, and the employees' restroom. So the central courtyard with trees and beautiful plants surround the structure. So the prisoner vocational activities were expanded and include poultry and piggery. So and also the agricultural, the flower, the fruit, the horticulture, and later it in the compound, living accommodation for the institution personnel were built. So, so there were the personal vocational like activities, poultry and piggery, as well as agriculture and etc. So despite a significant fall in the number of employees during the Japanese occupation, the correctional institution for women continued to operate. The facility also housed a handful of female military detainees. They were later released by the United States Army. So, the correctional institution for women continued normal activities after the war. So, weekly courses were begun, a dental clinic was constructed, the local phones were placed in the guardhouse, the Bureau of the Public Works repaired the main structure extensively, and a workshop and the hospital were built for the inmate use at the time. So the infirmary could not only accommodate about 16 patients. So the COI continued normal activities after the war. There the dental clinic was constructed, the local phones were placed in the guardhouse. So the Department of Public Works built in a new 4-story structure in the premises of Correctional Institution of Women in 2000. It helped to relieve the facility rising congestion. The Correctional Institution of Women, which had capacity of just 200 convicts, was forced to house of 1,000 detainees. So next, the Davao Correctional Colony. So the Davao Correctional Colony was the first penal community established and managed by the Filipinos. The community, which initially included the area around 30,000 hectares in district of Panabo and Tagum in Davao del Norte, was legally formed on January 21, 1932 by virtue of Act No. 3732. So the Governor General was given authority under this act to lease or sell the grounds, the buildings, and the improvement of San Juan Prison in the Iwahig Penal Colony. It also gave the Secretary of Justice permission to create a new jail and penal colony unsuitable of public property. So, take note that the Davao Correctional was the first penal community established and managed by our fellow Filipinos. The community which initially included an area around 30,000 hectares. So the budget of 500,000 has been set aside. So several committees were formed in order to select a suitable location for the correctional settlement. On October 7, 1931, Governor Dwight Davis issued Proclamation No. 414, which reserved a location for the prison colony in Davao Province, Mindanao, based on the recommendation of this panel. So the location was perfect for the agriculture activity. So they have budgeted of 500,000 has been set aside. So the Davao. So during the World War II, the colony was turned into a concentration camp with the Philippine American Armed Force committing about 1,000 Japanese internees. So the Japanese were treated in line with the American commanding officer directives. So on the December 20, 1941, the colony was among the institutions taking over the invading army when Japanese Imperial forces assaulted Davao. The entire town was thrown into disarray. The several captives field normal operation have been disrupted. So take note that the Davao Correctional Colony was the first penal community established and managed by our own Filipino, or a fellow Filipino. So in November 8, 1942, the colony and its position were handed over to Japanese authorities by a representative of the Director of Prison. November 8, 1942, handed over to Japanese authorities by a representatives of the Director of Prison. So, the surviving colony staff, their families, and the convicts were relocated to Iwahig, where they established the Davao Penal Colony at Inawagan Subcolony, Palawan. So, the creation of the colony and exile was allowed by Memorandum Order No. 60, signed by the Director of Prison on June 28, 1943. So, after the Philippines were liberated, the colony exiled in Palawan relocated to its original locations in Davao. So the conflict had nearly entirely destroyed the colony, necessitating the extensive reconstruction and rehabilitation. So next we have the prison and penal farm in Sablayan. So the Sablayan Correctional Colony, located in Occidental Mindoro and relatively new and closer to the Manila than other penal colonies. The prison colony was established on September 28, 1954 by Presidential Proclamation No. 72 and has been total land area of roughly 16,190 hectares. So according to the prison record, the first colonies and labor arrived in Sablayan on January 15, 1955. Several structures have since has been built, including the colony's dormitories, employees' quarter, guardhouse, the school, church, leisure hall, and the post exchange. So, in prison, in Sablayan Prison, so in September 26, 1954, by Presidential Proclamation No. 72, there it was the land area of roughly 16,190 hectares. So later the three sub-colonies were established. One is reservation that is still part of protected rainforest. Another is on the seashore. The third is utilized by the national government as a relocation site of Mount Pinatubo eruption refugees in 1991. So Sablayan Jail is place where NBP, New Bilibid Prison inmates are transferred for decongestion purposes. So it adheres to the same colony's norms as the other correctional farms. So in the Sablayan prison, there are three sub-colonies were established. One is the reservation that is still part of as protected rainforest. Other is the seashore, and the third was utilized by the national government as a relocation site of Mount Pinatubo eruption refugees in 1991. So next we have Leyte Regional Prison. So located in Abuyog, Southern Leyte, was constructed a year after martial law was declared in 1972 by Presidential Decree No. 28. So while the plantilla and constitutional layout were nearly perfect, a lack of funding prevented Ina Jail from reaching its full potential, and its amenities are frequently subpar when compared to those of other established penal farm. So the Leyte Regional Prison was capacity of 500 inmates. In addition, the Pyros therapeutic activities, it follows the same agricultural framework as the main jail program. So the convicted convicts from Region 6 and the Muntinlupa National Penitentiary are admitted to the facility. So the Public Attorney Office, so we have the The 7 institutional correction of the Philippines are the New Bilibid Prison, the San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm Correctional Institution for Women, the Iwahig Penal Colony, the Davao Penal Colony, the Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. Last is the Leyte Regional Prison. So in the New Bilibid Prison, it's located in Muntinlupa, Metro Manila, and the primary insular jail constructed to hold Philippines patient population. So it managed by the Department of Justice Bureau of Correction, which the Bucor. The NBP held of 26,877 convicted offender as May of 2018. So it's now in 2022, I think it's increasing a lot of convicted offenders. So, also in the old penitentiary, the ancient jail was built of a royal edict of the Spanish colonial authority on June 25. I forgot the year. So, it is separated into 2 sections: the carcel, which can house of 600 inmates, and the presidio, which can hold 527. So we have the San Ramon Prison. So in several facilities with capacity of 600 convicts were built under patient supervision. So the San Ramon handled by administration of Coconut Farm, the Philippines, and the Coconut Farm to the Philippines Coconut Authority. So Congressman Maria Clara Logrigat advocated regulating San Ramon Prison to Baguio Town in Zamboanga, Tahela region to make space for a special economic zone. So in Iwahig Penal Colony, so during the American occupation, this institution was built. So we have Governor Luke Wright. He authorized the construction of prison colony in the province of Palawan. So the Department of Commerce and Police, later renamed as Department of Public Instruction, proceeded in 1906 to convert the institution into a center of a prison colony control in accordance with the current trends. So the colony become a successful the colony become a successful settlement under the leadership of Colonel John R. White of the Philippines Constabulary. So next, the Iwahig, the penal colony. I just want to pick some of the nice, the Iwahig Penal Colony, by President Carlo P. Garcia established a committee on August 16, 1959 to investigate the situation of National Jail. So, Iwahig organized into 4 zones: district, the Central Subcolony, the St. Lucia, the Montebol, and the Inawagan. So next we have the CIW. It was stated prior to the construction of separated building, especially for women prisoner, all female convicts were imposed inside the Old Bilibid Prison on as Regada, St. Manila. So on February 14, 1931, the women detainees were transported from the Old Bilibid Prison to the structure designated specifically for them. So the name was changed from Women Prison to Correctional Institution for Women. So the Department of Public Works built a new 4-story structure of the premises of CIW in 2000s. So So the Davao Correctional Colony was first penal community established and managed by Filipinos. So take note that the Davao Correctional Colony was the first penal community established and managed by the Filipinos. So the budget of 505,000 has been set aside. The prison and penal farm Cablayan. Then next we have, to another discussion, we have the Public Attorney Office. It is an affiliated agency of the Department of Justice that offers free legal help to destitute plaintiffs. So the PAO shall be independent and autonomous office, but shall be affiliated to the Department of Justice in line of Section 38. So Chapter 7 of Book 4 of this Code for Policy and Program Coordination. The PAO shall be government primarily law office in providing free legal help to impoverished people in criminal, civil labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial situation. Their abilities and functions. The PAO shall independently carry out its responsibility for providing free legal representation, aid, and counseling, and destitute people in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-situation. So the PAO may be called upon the competent government officials to give such assistance to other individuals in the event of emergency, pursuant to current law, rules, and regulation. So the Public Attorney's Office exists to provide indigent litigants, oppressed, marginalized, and underprivileged members of society which free access to court. Remember, so judicial and quasi-judicial agencies by rendering legal services, counseling, assistance in accordance with the constitutional mandate that free access to court shall not be denied to any person on account of poverty, in order to ensure the rule of law, truth, and social justice as component of the account. So the God-centered dynamic bureaucracy that responds to the ever-increasing legal demands of the poor and oppressed, headed by highly qualified, world-class, development-oriented, honest, committed, and nationalistic leaders and attorneys. So that's all. So I hope you have learned something about the institutional agency of the Philippines. Also the Code of Kalanchow. So there are 18 law of Code Kalanchow, and the question is what are the punishment under Code of Kalanchow? So depending on the nature of the violation, punishment might range from the small fee to being shoved up the throne to crocodile. So historians began to challenge the code of legitimacy as early as the 1960s, although many Filipinos continued to see it as an initial larger instrument. So the 7 institutional correction, don't forget. So we have the New Bilibid Prison, then San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm Correctional Institution for Women, the Iwahig Penal Colony, the Davao Penal Colony, the Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm, the Leyte Regional Prison. Don't forget this correctional institution agency. Next, and also in PAO, the PAO shall be, so in PAO don't forget that PAO shall be government proper primary law office and providing free legal help to impoverish people in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial situation. So their abilities and functions. So the PAO shall independently carry out its responsibility of providing free legal representation, aid, and counseling to destitute people in criminal, civil, labor, administrative, and other quasi-judicial situations. So, and also don't forget the classic epic of Marathas, which is called the Code of Kalantia. And also we have what could be the Bureau of Prison was created under the Reorganization Act of 1905 when American took over in 90s. So there are a lot of institutional agency of the Philippines. Okay, so that I think that could be all. So please memorize the 7 correctional institutions of the Philippines. There are 7. Also, we need to know or understand the Code of Kalantiao. Also, what are the abilities, the functions of the PAO, and to know the 7 institutional incorrection, how it is work, or how it is convex, and why it is important to know the 7 institutional correction of the Philippines, why it is being studied, and why is that we need to be more in having a search about it. And I think that's could be all, and thanks for listening my presentation. I hope you have enjoyed, learned something about my discussion. So that's could be all. My name is Danik Maglanes, and God will bless you.